Ladies and gentlemen, not every heroic act starts with a uniform. Not every battlefield has barbed wire, and not every warrior carries a weapon. Sometimes, the most defining moments of character happen in the quiet spaces when no one is watching, and when the choice you make doesn't earn applause, but it defines who you are. Tonight, I want to tell you a story. A simple one, a single black father, a hard-working man, someone who shows up early, stays late, does the job no one else wants to do. A man with responsibilities not just to a company, but to a child waiting at home. A man who knows struggle not as a concept but as a companion. And one night, after the company's holiday party, his boss, drunk, disoriented, needs a ride home. He could have walked away. He could have judged her. He could have handed her over to the chaos. But instead, he made a choice. Let me tell you 5 truths this story teaches us. Because inside this one moment lies a map for all of us. The boss held the title, the corner office, the authority, but that night none of that mattered. What mattered was who stepped up when things went sideways. Titles are easy to give, they come with promotions, with paperwork, with a nameplate on the door. But leadership, that has to be earned, and it's often earned in the quiet, unseen moments when no one's looking for a hero, but someone chooses to do the right thing anyway. When the party was over and the laughter faded, the room emptied, and the silence settled in, she was too drunk to drive. Everyone noticed, but no one moved. They glanced, they whispered, but their feet stayed planted. Except for one man, the one without the title. The one who had no obligation, no reason, and nothing to prove. But he stood up anyway and said the words that shifted the entire dynamic. "I'll get her home safe." He didn't do it for applause. He didn't do it to climb a ladder. He did it because it was right. That night, he didn't just drive a car, he navigated responsibility, integrity, and quiet strength. While others stayed comfortable, he stepped into discomfort. While others hesitated, he acted. That's leadership. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need a nameplate or a paycheck to validate it. It's found in the willingness to show up when it's hard, to protect others when they're vulnerable, to make choices that no one sees but that everyone benefits from. That night, the boss may have held the title, but the real leader was the man who got behind the wheel, not for glory, but for goodness. That's leadership, raw, honest, and real. Character is forged in the moments no one sees. It's not something that needs applause or validation. It's not shaped in front of a crowd or under bright lights. No, it's formed in silence, in solitude, in the quiet corners of life when no one is watching. That night, no one would have blamed him if he had left her behind. She was drunk, stumbling, unaware of the world around her. The company party was over, the laughter had faded, and everyone had gone home. But he stayed, not because of a job title, not because she signed his paycheck, but because deep down, he knew what was right. He had a daughter waiting for a bedtime story. He had responsibilities, a long drive home, a life filled with his own struggles. And yet, he paused his world to protect someone else's. He didn't ask for praise. He didn't document the moment. He didn't make a show of it, because real character doesn't need an audience. It doesn't look for applause. It simply does what's right even when it costs something. In a world obsessed with image and recognition, his actions stood quietly, powerfully apart. He wasn't trying to impress. He wasn't trying to climb some corporate ladder. He was simply being a decent human being. That's the thing. Character is proven when there's no spotlight, no trophy, no pat on the back. It's in the sacrifices made when no one is counting. In those silent decisions where no one sees, character is carved not in grand gestures, but in small, often invisible ones. Because doing the right thing when no one's watching, that's who you truly are. That's the character that lasts. This world is loud with judgment. Everywhere you turn, someone is quick to criticize, eager to point fingers, ready to condemn. But in the middle of all that noise, real strength doesn't shout. It doesn't boast. It moves in silence, often unnoticed, like a quiet current beneath a stormy sea. Real strength is compassion, the kind of strength that holds its ground not with fists or fury, but with grace and patience. That night, the father had every reason to walk away. She was drunk, irresponsible, and blind to the weight of her own actions. Maybe she held more power than him in the company. Maybe she had never shown him an ounce of respect. But none of that mattered. He didn't see a title or a problem, he saw a person. And in that moment, when it would have been easier to let her stumble, to let her suffer the consequences of her choices, he chose something harder. He chose grace, and grace is never weak. It is the strongest response in a world that expects retaliation. Anyone can react out of anger. Anyone can respond with judgment. But it takes extraordinary strength to choose compassion when you're the one hurt, overlooked, or disrespected. That strength is not passive. It is not naive. It is fierce, the kind of strength that holds back when it could destroy, the kind that heals when it could wound. Compassion changes things. It breaks cycles. It disarms shame. It turns enemies into allies and strangers into stories worth telling. That night wasn't about driving a drunk boss home. It was about showing the kind of strength that doesn't need applause. The kind that lifts another human being quietly, gently, and without condition. That is the strength this world truly needs. She woke up the next morning in her bed, confused, disoriented, unsure how she had gotten home. Her head throbbed with the weight of the night before, and the memories blurred together in fragments of laughter, noise, and the stench of alcohol. But then, her eyes landed on a note sitting quietly on the kitchen counter. Got you home safe. Drink water. Be good to yourself. M. It was simple. No judgment. No explanation. Just care. Just responsibility. And in that quiet moment, staring at those handwritten words, something broke open inside her. Not in the way shame breaks you, this was different. It was soft. It was piercing. It was real. That note carried no condemnation, but it held a mirror up to her life, and for the first time in a long time, she saw herself clearly. Not the version she put on display at work. Not the one who had it all together, but the one who was struggling, numbing, drifting. That single act, him driving her home, making sure she was safe, choosing not to take advantage or lecture, it changed her. Not because she feared punishment, but because she felt something she hadn't in a long time, worth. He gave her dignity when she wasn't giving it to herself. He reminded her that she mattered, even in her mess. That's the thing about real transformation. It rarely comes from humiliation or pressure. It often comes from being seen and treated with unexpected kindness. Sometimes, one good act, just one, becomes the moment that reroutes a person's life. And that night, that ride, that note, it wasn't just a gesture. It was a new beginning. His daughter asked him that night, "Daddy, why were you late?" He looked at her, gently tucking a blanket around her shoulders, and said, "Because someone needed help getting home." She smiled. She didn't need any more details. She understood. That moment was small, quiet, but powerful. You see, legacies aren't just the stories we leave in our wills or the photos we hang on the wall. They're built in those unnoticed moments when we pause our own plans to step in for someone else. They're built in the silent decisions we make when nobody is applauding, when there's no camera, no praise, no recognition, just us, and the choice. Legacy is passed in the way we live, not just in what we say. That night, his daughter saw something more than just a father who came home late. She saw what integrity looks like. She saw what compassion feels like. She saw that helping someone, even when it's inconvenient, even when you get nothing in return, is worth it. And that becomes a lesson more lasting than any lecture. Because what we do in front of our children, in front of the people who look up to us, even if we don't realize, their watching becomes a guidebook for how they live. They learn how to love, how to lead, how to give, not by our advice, but by our actions. So tonight, ask yourself, what will your child see? What will the people around you witness when your moment comes? Will they see someone who chose comfort, or someone who chose character, one ride home, one act of care? It may seem small, but to someone, it might mean everything, and in that moment, you leave a legacy no one can erase.